I'm Alex Michelson. This week on The Issue Is, top policymakers on coronavirus. The top Republican in the U.S. House, Kevin McCarthy. The top Democrat in the California Assembly, Speaker Anthony Rendon. The coordinator of the White House Coronavirus Task Force, Dr. Deborah Birx. And California's Chief Service Officer, Josh Friday, on how you can volunteer. The Issue Is starts right now.
Broadcasting across California, California's only statewide political show. You're watching The Issue Is.
And welcome to The Issue Is. I'm Alex Michelson. On a week when Congress passed a $500 billion stimulus plan, we're joined by one of the most powerful guys in all of Congress, the Republican leader in the House, Kevin McCarthy of Bakersfield. Congressman, welcome back to The Issue Is.
Thank you for having me back.
So let's start with that bill, $500 billion. If I'm at home right now, I'm unemployed, I'm frustrated, what's that going to do for me?
Well, if you're unemployed, this is a good bill for you. If you're a small business owner, if you work for a small business, a business that has 500 employees or fewer, because what this does, it replenishes our program, the Paycheck Protection Program. We've already loaned 1.6 million businesses, saved 30 million jobs, but that was so popular it ran out of money. And so what the program does is it provides money to small businesses to pay their employees. The money that goes to the business, 75% has to be given to the salaries of the employees, pay your rent, pay your utilities, and that becomes a grant, not a loan. So you may be on unemployment right now because you got laid off from a small business. They could be calling you back with this money. It's a 2-month program. It could help you get through this time period where we could start our state opening back up and get to work again.
You know, the big fight is, of course, what comes next. What do you want to see specifically in the next stimulus bill? What are you looking for?
Well, the first thing I'm looking for is implement the first 4 bills we put through. Remember, we have passed almost $2.8 trillion that are going into the economy. Compounding that with what the Fed is doing, there's about $7 trillion going into the economy. The most important thing, make sure it's working. When you look at state governments, we have provided $500 billion. Now put that in perspective. We did that in 1 month. We spend roughly a little more than $600 billion an entire year in Medicare.
Let's talk about something that your Republican colleague in the Senate said this week, suggesting that these are blue state bailouts and suggesting that states should be allowed to file for bankruptcy. Do you agree with that?
Look, the thing I look at, we just provided $500 billion to states. The thing that we want to make sure we do here, because these are hardworking taxpayers' money, that states do not utilize this money to pay maybe for pensions or others, but if there's a concern about when it comes to COVID, that they had to shut down or others, that's a place we should look and work together. And I want to thank the way that President Trump and Governor Newsom has been working together. California has really been an example between the federal government and California. From the vice president, from the very beginning, the governor had texted me about his work with the federal government, with the vice president, with the president. Remember, the president has sent out a Navy ship to LA. We are prepared. Now, we are fortunate the actions that California's been taking, that we are not looking like New York.
And just to drill it down, would you call this a blue state bailout?
Well, what we did yesterday is not a bailout. Yet what we did yesterday dealt with small business and hospitals, and that was the critical part.
Okay, you mentioned this relationship, this strange bromance between Governor Newsom and President Trump. Who would have ever thought that was happening? One of the many surreal aspects of this. The president says that Governor Newsom is doing a tremendous job. Do you agree with that?
I think he is doing a good job, and that should not be weird. That's how the American public expects us to act and work together. Remember, this COVID virus does not attack one party or the other. It's attacked our entire world. And what I like to see is how the president is acting with our governor and our governor is interacting with our president. What I don't like to see is people criticizing either one of them from a philosophical basis because they're upset that they're working together.
Looking back on it, do you wish that the president used different language towards the beginning of this process when he talked about it's just going to wash over, there may not be any deaths or a few people? I mean, do you wish that 2020 hindsight that wasn't the message?
Let's literally walk through what the facts were. If you talk to Dr. Fauci during that time, Dr. Fauci said it would just be the flu. These are the people who are advising the president. The World Health Organization said it would not even transfer from human to human. But at that same time that the president was hearing and getting all this advice, what did he do on January 31st? He shut the flights down from China coming to America against all the other advice. People criticized him. And almost a month later, February 24th, you have Speaker Pelosi telling everybody to gather together in San Francisco and Chinatown. So look at his actions. He took actions that went beyond what those experts were telling the president. Why were those experts saying what they were saying? Because China was lying to the rest of the world. China was influencing the World Health Organization. You know, what China did to us, the deception that China did, directly led to Americans dying. This is where people should be upset.
So what do you want the U.S. to do?
I'm actually very proud of the action the
China
president did.
as a result of that. I mean, what should be the U.S. response? Because that's quite a thing that you just said.
Well, it's the truth. China was deceptive to the rest of the world. China influenced the World Health Organization to lie about it. China allowed 5 million people from Wuhan to go and fly throughout the world and infect all of us. China, at the same time that they control 50% of the supply chain for the personal protection equipment, the masks, the gowns, and others, when they were telling the world that this wasn't causing any problems, went and purchased more. The one thing all of America should wake up to is we should never allow China to control any supply chain again. This is something that President Trump, as candidate Trump, warned us about.
It's something he warned us about for decades before he was even candidate Trump. This is something he's been talking about for a long time. And just to wrap things up on a fun note, because I always like to have a little bit of fun on this show, in this quarantine life era, I know you're probably working nonstop. A lot of people are home. A lot of people are binge watching certain things. What are you doing? What's quarantine life like with you? And is there something in particular you're watching or really into these days?
Well, you know what? I watch a lot of different documentaries. I went into Bill Gates' brain, was one of them recently. I did watch Ozark, the 3rd season. I thought that was really good. So yeah, there's a number of things I continue to watch. So if somebody has advice for me, go ahead, pass it on.
All right, very, very nice. And I know last time we talked about the fact that we're both Dodger fans. We're both rooting for baseball to come back. I know I miss sports so much. And we can't wait because Dodgers have such a good team. If only we can get them on the field.
You know what? They won that World Series. They just don't have the trophy.
Exactly. I'll second that. Congressman, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate you taking time. And best of luck to you and your family. Stay safe, stay healthy during all of this.
Thank you.
Our thanks to Congressman Kevin McCarthy. Up next, a Democrat, one of the most powerful in the state of California, Anthony Rendon, the Speaker of the Assembly. But first, we always like to play music on this show. This week, John Legend and Sam Smith came together during that big Home Together concert. Here's a little of them.
Stand by me, stand by me. If the sky that we look upon should tumble and fall, and the mountain.
There's no date. If there's a date, then we're denying the facts on the ground. We're denying the reality of the spread of the virus.
Governor Newsom talking about when California could essentially reopen, saying that there is no date. All of that uncertainty making the job of my next guest very complicated right now. Joining us now is the Speaker of the Assembly in California, one of the most powerful guys in the entire state, Democrat Anthony Rendon of Lakewood. Welcome to The Issue Is for the first time. Good to have you with us.
Thank you, Alex.
So you've got this huge challenge in front of you. What do you see as priority number one in terms of funding? Because you are in charge of the budget. Priority number one now in the era of coronavirus.
I think priority number one in terms of the budget, it needs to be to sort of stabilize the budget. There are a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of unknowns with respect to our revenue projections. There's a lot of unknowns with respect to how much COVID is going to cost. Those unknowns, once we figure those out, will then determine how much money there is for other things.
I mean, one of the biggest areas that we're hearing complaints about right now is unemployment. Millions of people unemployed, many of them not able to get through, not able to get help. I know the governor has expanded the hours that you can call there, but what do you say to the people that are really struggling with that system right now?
Well, these are folks in my own district. We had town halls this week and last week where we spoke to people specifically about this. You're right. Millions of people unemployed, millions of people unemployed instantly. We think the EDD can do better, and we're going to make sure that they do.
I mean, what does that mean? They can do better?
My office and different offices throughout the state can get involved. But a lot of folks don't know who to call their legislators, for example. So EDD needs to be more responsive to the needs of Californians.
Governor Newsom has gotten a lot of credit for what he's done, but there's also been a lot of questions, even on the Democratic side, about this mask deal with China, $1 billion deal from China to buy masks. Are you comfortable with that deal? Do you know enough about it?
Well, we had a budget oversight committee meeting on Monday to ask questions, specific questions about that deal. We as the legislature have an oversight responsibility, and it's our role to make sure that we are providing oversight. And that's exactly what we did at that hearing on Monday. And as far as I'm concerned, that's a sign of government working well. When we're asking the questions and the administration is responsive to us, that's government working as it should.
Are you satisfied with the answers you're getting to your questions?
We asked the administration a couple of questions that at the time they didn't have answers for. So they said they were going to come back and get us those answers. We're hoping to get those answers soon. If we don't get those answers soon, then I won't be satisfied, and neither will my members.
What do you make of the governor's performance so far, and what do you make of this sort of strange bromance going on right now between President Trump and Governor Newsom?
When you get dealt, thrown a curveball like coronavirus, you have to kind of be nimble. The governor's done a good job of that. He's acted forcefully, and he's acted decisively. His relationship with the president is something that I think can only be helpful for California. When
you talk about how this has just changed everything, one of the things the governor wants to do is to give undocumented immigrants $125 million for relief. There's some on the right especially who say, look, we've got millions of Californians that are out of work. We should take care of our citizens before we take care of the undocumented. What do you say to that?
Sure, we've heard those criticisms. I mean, these are folks who are in this country. These are folks who are contributing to our economy. These are folks who have kids in our schools. These are folks who, in many instances, are hurting like a lot of Californians because of COVID. And we need to make sure that they're taken care of.
A couple moments, because we always like to have fun on this show. It's your first time on this show, so some of our viewers are getting to know you. And when they hear Anthony Rendon is going to be on the show, they may think, oh, the baseball guy? We've got the newest member of the Los Angeles Angels is Anthony Rendon, who played for the Washington Nationals last year. We're showing a picture of the two of you guys together. What's that dynamic like between you two?
It's fascinating. I met him about 2 years ago at a game in San Diego. I had heard of him. I asked him if he'd heard of me. He said no. So I appreciated his honesty.
And now he's in Southern California.
Now he's in Southern California. Good for him. I'm a Dodger fan, but good for him.
And he talked about how he didn't want to play for the Dodgers, which was, we didn't like hearing that. And last question, for fun, quarantine life. What's that like for you? Are you binge watching anything? How are you holding up through all this?
Well, I stayed in Sacramento. My wife and my 7-month-old daughter are with me in Sacramento. So I go into the Capitol every day, just as I did before. It's a little bit different. I was talking to one of the security guards up front who said, there are generally about 1,100 people coming in and out of the Capitol. Week ago Friday, there were only 5 people in the Capitol. So it's a very different reality, but we're doing good work.
That's kind of like our studio is the same way. We've gone from about 200 people in the building to about 10. It really is a wild thing. All right, well, your first time on the show, we always like to play music on the show. So this week, we have some new music from the Rolling Stones. Yeah, this is coronavirus-inspired song by the Rolling Stones. It's amazing that they still have new music coming out, which is a cool thing. So this is your chance to rock out, as we say. Thank you so much for being here, sir. We appreciate having you, Mr. Speaker.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Up next, Deborah Birx is with us here on The Issue Is. But take it away, Stones.
that we're hoping that the flu infections also go down because
every day, Dr. Deborah Birx stands next to President Trump. She's the coordinator of the White House Coronavirus Task Force. Earlier, she spoke with us in an exclusive interview. We began by talking about California. You've given a lot of credit publicly to California in terms of this state's response to coronavirus. What is California doing right, and what can other states potentially learn from it?
I think California acted very early and really got communication out to the public about what they needed to do to protect themselves and protect their families and protect their communities. And I think getting information out early and being proactive was really key. I only have one really kind of small complaint is California could improve its public health website, because I think it's important for people to have constant information and constant update about how the virus is moving through their communities.
So what do you want that to look like?
So if you go to the Florida Public Health website, they've been very good about creating a dashboard by zip code and by county, so that every day people can see what the case counts are per county, the hospitalizations. I think when you have these kinds of pandemics, it's really critical to both over-communicate, but also give people the resources and knowledge to make decisions to protect themselves and others.
Let's talk about the issue of something that's happening now at USC here in Southern California, which is the look at antibody tests. They've done some research that suggests possibly hundreds of thousands of people have already been infected with COVID-19. What does that research mean to you, and what could that potentially do in terms of changing the calculus of when to reopen the country?
First, let me thank also California for creating regional laboratory hubs. I think this is really spectacular and is really going to help expand testing. For antibody testing, this is a difficult one because it's not 100% sensitive or specific. And so you can get false positives when you test in what we call low incidence, low prevalence areas. So in the White House guidelines that we recently put out, we really suggested that you start testing in areas where you think people had greater exposure: first responders, healthcare providers, potentially essential workers.
We've seen protests here in California where people are angry. They want the government to be reopened. We've seen that around the country. The president has suggested that states should be liberated. Many of these protesters are wearing Trump hats as they do it. What's your message to the protesters?
We've been very clear in both the Stop the Spread guidance and the Open Up America guidance that there are criteria that need to be met, can be met at the county by county or the state by state level. And that's why I'm also calling for state and local governments to make sure that their information is displayed. And so we've made it also clear in phase 1 that people need to continue to social distance and need to continue to protect the nursing homes. And so if people want to be out and can continue social distancing as recommended, that is one thing, but we do not want to see people not following the clear guidance of how to protect themselves and how to protect others in their community.
Well, I wish I could talk to you all day, but I know I've got limited time. I always like to ask something fun to wrap things up. So one fun question. You've become a bit of a fashion icon as of late. The Washington Post even writing about your scarves. What do you make of that and sort of the public response to you?
I have no idea what to make of that. You know, I grew up as the girl that carried all the slide rules, that got the first calculator, and was always a bit of the nerd. So this is both, I think, shocking to me and very shocking to my 2 millennial daughters.
Well, thank you for the work that you're doing to try to keep us safe. We hope that you remain healthy and safe during all of this, and best of luck to you doing the important work that you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the time, Dr. Deborah Birx.
Strike a pose.
This interview made us think of Madonna's Vogue. We've got to have a little bit of fun on a tough week, right? By the way, Dr. Birx's scarves have taken on a viral life of their own. There are multiple social media accounts dedicated simply to her scarf choice of the day. The internet, gotta love it, right? Up next, California's Chief Service Officer on the unprecedented efforts to coordinate volunteers in California, how you can get involved. Stay with us for that. And a reminder, Log on to our website for all our past shows, more information, theissueisshow.com. You can also send us your emails, theissueis@foxtv.com.
Where we are asking all Californians who are healthy to stand up, to step up, and to help connect and make a difference in your community.
Josh Friday, California's Chief Service Officer, announcing the launch of the Californians for All website for volunteers. The goal here, Californians sign up online, share what they're interested in. This week, I talked with Friday to find out what's happening next.
So we have a couple tracks that we're helping people connect to. One is we've partnered with some really important organizations and nonprofits in our state, including the Red Cross, United Ways, the California Food Banks Association, and volunteer centers throughout the state. And we're going to connect you based on your interest to those nonprofits so that you can find local opportunities. And then we're also going to be communicating with you regularly with weekly emails to give you content and ideas of things that you could be doing every single day to make a difference in your community.
California is the only state in the country that has a cabinet level position that's all about volunteering. Governor Newsom made it that way. Why is this so important, and what's it like being in that job?
My experience in service as being a military veteran is it allows you to bring people of all different backgrounds, no matter what perspective you have, where you come from, to accomplish great things together around a common purpose and a common mission. And that's really why we launched Californians for All, so that we could continue to unite Californians, make people feel like in an extraordinarily difficult time, we are connected, we will be connected, and we may have to defeat COVID apart, but we're going to come out of this stronger by bringing people together. And that's what Governor Newsom believes.
And if you want to sign up, head to californiansforall.ca.gov. I signed up, hope you will too. We wrap up this week once again with a tribute to our first responders. Our music from Bruce Springsteen and Patti Scialfa from their tribute concert this week. Our images of nurses on the front line. Thank you for watching and for staying home to allow them to save lives.
Well, darling, if you're weary, lay your head upon my chest. We'll take what we can carry, and we'll leave the rest. Big wheels roll through fields where sunlight streams. Well, meet me